Well, hi, welcome back, everyone. So this video is not really that big of a deal. It's not deep or anything like that. It's just some girl commented on one of the videos I made about Goth counterculture, and she made some really stupid arguments and really kind of showed me that she, or anyone that remembers, like, the OG, like, goth days, original goth days, trad goth, like the beginning stuff, the people who really paved the way for goth rock, and which she claims there's a difference between goth and gothic. She also claims there's no, not political, which some of the things that she said reminded me of this guy, and this is part of the old, I'm going to call myself centrist, but I'm not really centrist. I'm actually just kind of right-wing, but I'm going to play the centrist card, but advocate for a bunch of very right-wing, like, you're not a human being, fuck you, kind of social, political stuff. And it reminded me of this guy that I saw on YouTube, where he was, the whole argument of, like, oh, right-wing republicanism is the new punk. No, it's not. And this whole idea that, like, music not political. No, a lot of it is, actually. But in this one video I saw this guy, he's trying to say, oh, well, the one of the original people from Sex Pistols, like, oh, they're being more Republican now. It's like, so a lot of them aren't. It's not our fault, like the guy from the Sex Pistols sold out. You can go and look at other, like, original punks, like J-Lo Biafra, from the Dead Kennedys. He's still very much very left. Very, very left. Very left. Same with, like, Black Flag. Same with UK Decay. I'm not sure about Exploited. Never really got into Exploited. But that whole idea, like, this one YouTuber I saw, he found these people that were like, oh, System of a Down is punk. System of a Down is not punk. They said Rage Against the Machine. I wouldn't call Rage Against the Machine punk, but a lot of people may not know that Rage Against the Machine very much has its roots in punk. It really, that's where a lot of the people in Tom Morello and the lead singer's name is not coming to me for some reason, even though I really, really like him. They all started off in punk bands in low key, shit concert halls that used to cost $5 to get in. Punk. Yeah, Rage Against the Machine has a lot of punk background, but it's just kind of this way of being divisive, being divisive, not really talking about real like spreading false information, falsehoods, trying to reframe the narrative and push the Overton window, trying to get people who are fence sitters and more like it's you sell people on lies. And this is one of the things that I ran into with the whole anti-SJW thing is, like, what I didn't realize is that is conservatives that I was listening to, and they didn't pave themselves as conservatives. It was, oh, I'm a leftist, I'm liberal, I'm blah, 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 blah. And then they would proceed to present leftist positions not as what they were. And that's part of the problem. That's misdirecting people. And so, like, when you hear, like, oh, the non-binary trans community wants there to be 32,000 genders and climbing and identify as blah blah blah, and there's a kid that poops in a litter pan. And you don't understand that stuff is not real. Then, any rational person, if you think that that's real, you're going to be like, what? That's ridiculous. That's awful. Or you hear about the man-spreading thing. That is really only a thing in New York and California, where public transportation is really, 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 really big. And you come to realize the whole man-spreading thing is not necessarily about men sitting with their legs open, but it's about anybody taking up multiple seats by sprawling out, laying down. And it even applies to women carrying multiple bags of shit and taking up multiple seats with their shit. Because it's public transportation, people need a place to ride on it to get where they need to go. So, and it's not heavily enforced. It's only a $25 fine. Most people don't even really give a shit. So, no, it really doesn't have anything to do with men sitting with their legs open. It has nothing to do with that. And that's part of the misdirection, is that if you think like, oh, they're making laws targeted specifically at males for having balls between their legs, and honestly, I don't think guys sit with their legs open because they have balls. I just think it's a comfortable way to sit. I see plenty of women, like when women wear pants, they sit with their legs open too. It's just comfortable. I don't think it has anything to do with balls. I've seen lots of men sit with their legs crossed at the knees. I could go on and on and on and on. But a lot of countercultural stuff sort of fell into the way of the wind of this sort of thing where they like to do this, is that, oh no, it's just not political, it's not political. So you're trying to depoliticize these highly influential people within the punk scene, within the hippie scene, within the goth scene, the original gothic creators that did spring off of punk, which for some reason she thinks it does. You go, oh no, it's based off of post-punk. Goth is post-punk. It spawned off of punk. It's called post-punk because it happened after punk. Anyway. But if you get people to sort of depoliticize these very leftist progressive messages that we're stemmed in anger towards the systems, this whole like, fuck you, don't tell me what to do, I'm gonna do what I want. I mean, the whole idea that goth is not counterculture, that it fits neatly into the mainstream, it's just like, were you even around in the 90s? Like, no. If you were gothic back in the day, most people presumed you to be like a serial killer or a drug user, which that was probably pretty accurate. A lot of goths back in the day, I didn't know anybody that didn't use drugs of some kind. That was very common. Very common. And you can go and look at, some of the people who started the goth scene, like Jatan Damone. She has a fucking song called I Lost a Friend to Heroin. You have Justin Sullivan from New Model Army. He wears a fucking t-shirt that says, only bastards do heroin. So, trying to get people to stay off of it and not use it and what have you. And you have creators like Roz Williams that were perfectly happy to engage in it, but probably simultaneously would, kind of do the Kurt Cobain thing of like, don't do it, but, I like it, but don't do it. But I have a problem, but I like it and I'm not, but don't do it. Like light up a cigarette and don't smoke, kids. I gotta have my cigarette, but don't smoke, it's bad for you. But I mean, you would be constantly profiled back in the day. If you were goth by police, you'd be pulled over because they would suspect you of committing some kind of a crime, whether that be drugs or harboring a body or theft or whatever. They quite consistently, persistently, you were a threat to the system. You were a threat to the machine. You were against the grain of the system, of the machine. That is every bit of indicative of counterculture, and a lot of it was to push against social norms and accepted social norms, like of gender expression. And even Justin Sullivan from New Model Army has talked about that, and I will try to find links to interviews with Justin Sullivan and things about New Model Army where they even talk about that, breaking gender norms and stereotypes, being more androgynous, being more feminine presenting, being more accepting and okay with females in power and head roles and stuff like that. You see it in Susie and the Banshees. You see it in I'll go over that. So I'm trying to make this video quick because it's basically fluff. It's not super serious. So this just the prelude. I moved. You see all that around me. I moved. This is a remodel. I'm at the same complex, but they remodeled, did all that. See that floor? No more carpet. It's the acoustics. Like, I'm worried about recording, like how that's going to sound. The acoustics in here are a lot different because of the hardwood floor, and those are floating wood panels. Okay, so very nice. So I'm gonna get into the scene where I'm reading the comment that she left, and my comment's back, and then I'll get back to you. Okay, so let's just drop that in here. I'm gonna try to speed it up. So it might be going like kind of fast, and it might make my voice sound a little robotic or chipmunky or something. But I'm just trying to speed it up to try to keep the video a little short. This is fluff. This is not like serious like like something as serious as social media is destroying our ability to understand nuance, and it's turning into like this huge identity thing where you can be a libertarian, let's say, and be perfectly fine with LGBTQIA plus rights and still be libertarian, and you'd still be following the path of the libertarian model, which is make a strange right on economic policies with, like, you know, the whole like everything privatized, and take a left on social issues. You'd still be a libertarian. That's still following the libertarian model. But these days, you see this, that's something more serious that's actually occurring. Like, people are on both the left and the right are getting sucked into these sort of cult of personalities, and it's like the political positions are becoming people's identities, and that's very bizarre. That's a serious thing, and I could make a video about that in the break. We'll see what happens. I don't want to make promises on videos because, like, something will pop up and it'll catch my interest and I'll make a video on that instead. Sometimes that happens. Anyway, so I'll get into the comment of this lady. I'm going to try not to make it. It's not a serious video. It's not serious. It's just for fun. Like, hey, look at this stupid person. Thinks they know about Goth and stuff. Goth isn't a counterculture because the requirements for being Goth isn't about going against social norms. It's not about going against social norms. Are you sure about that? I mean, like, when the Goth community, it was totally against social norms. It was like the whole thing, like, every Goth was evil, they were bad, blah, 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 blah. Anyway. And in many ways, I can say that with many alternative subcultures, actually, Second Goth and Gothic aren't the same thing. Okay, I don't know where she heard that one. That's anyway my response. Not really, I think that's probably true today, but Goth started out as a subgenre of punk, often referred to as the sister of punk, referencing to the breakdown of gender norms through feminist and queer coded language. Punk initially started off as a counterculture movement of both far left and some even used it to promote far right politics. When punk and goth came out in the 70s through the 90s, it was absolutely not socially normal, seen as acceptable, and was absolutely considered outside of the box of what was seen as culturally allowable, with many artists facing mass protests, censorship, and even arrest over ideas of being too being too radical or extreme. It all goes back to the counterculture movement in the 1920s, sometimes nicknamed Beatific Smile, from the beatnik poet era, the pro-dada, pro-socialist movement within beatnik poetry carried over into the so-called hippie movement in the 1960s, known in its time as a counterculture revolution. A leftist one, although libertarian hippies, or what I call Sweet Home Alabama hippies, did exist. Beatnik, Beatific Smile, hippies, punk, goth, industrial, rivet heads, Skavians, ska heads, all sorts of come from this and have remnants of the beatnik culture from within them. Very prevalent in the written word as being lines of expressive thought, sometimes lacking in sentence structure, paragraph structure, and lacking punctuation. Even rap has an influence from black beatnik poetry, like Ferlinghetti. There's even a seamless flow of thought found in grunge artists like Kurt Cobain. A lot of it back in the day was very anti-establishment, YOLO, live for today, live fast, die young, do what feels good, a philosophy that goes back to a strange philosopher by the name of Hermeticles. That's supposed to be what it says. Where did I go? Where is it? Oh, who ate like an animal, walked around naked, and was publicly ostracized, especially for public masturbation. Oh, and there's also Wish I Was a Dog, another motto often carried by all these movements, and even an Alien Sex Fiend song. The band's title itself appealing to leftist idea of sexual liberation against sexual puritanism. Even punk artist Patti Smith has said much of her influence has come from beatnik poets and was friends with some in her time. The push towards equality by destroying gender roles, which is something observed in the fashion of anti-fashion in goth punk and hippie, and even grunge to some extent, of androgynous garb worn both by men and women. This was not just an anti-establishment statement against gender roles, but also very much in favor of equality for women, LGBTQIA+, at a time when you could be arrested for it, which Roz Williams had been. I believe, I could be wrong on that, but I think Roz Williams was threatened to be arrested because he would do a lot of LGBT kind of coded stuff, very Dada-esque performances. Justice for people of color, which much of the music being a fusion of different genres, like goth being that of blues, ska being that of reggae, hippie, jam bands, which were blues and jazz, punk more jazz-related than goth punk, but also a anti-hierarchical value like anti-capitalist ideas like socialism, Marxism, communism, and anarchism. So yes, as a trad goth, meaning traditional, an OG, an original goth. When the scene arose, it was very much counterculture, decline and fall, which is lyrics, is actually the name of a song by Flesh for Lulu, and fuck the system. Today, though, goth has become very commercial and very culturally acceptable, something that many of the original goths and punks would and do hate, such as Andi Sex King and Justin Sullivan from New Model Army. Even Kurt Cobain hated this as Nirvana became too corporate. Roz Williams most likely wouldn't have stood for it, as the name Christian Death itself was not actually about fuck Christianity, although it's easy to see it that way. Actually, Roz named the band that as a way of making fun of mainstream culture and fashion by making fun of Christian Dior. Roz as a Dadaist socialist. Originally, the look of goth aesthetic, along with punk, was meant to be a middle finger to the establishment and a middle finger to fashion, consumerist, capitalist-based appearance. Originally, the look was supposed to be DIY. If you talk to any original, like old school, like original, like trad goth or punk, they will tell you, like, when we did like the fishnet things, like we had to start with like just making finger slits for like from fishnet pantyhose to put over our arms because they did not always make fishnet shirts. The pale face powder that originally was done with like you do that with like cornstarch or like baby powder or something like that and some water, and not something that was supposed to be marketable under neoliberalism. This is why, in my personal opinion, and this is just my subjective opinion, you're perfectly fine to disagree with, gothic makeup tutorials are antithetical to trad goth and punk as well. It's not meant to look pretty. It's more meant to look really however the fuck you want, as a means of individual self-expression outside the realm of pop fashion. However, mainstream has had a tendency to grab things from anti-fashion and counterculture movements to commodify them and sell them under a neoliberal framework, thus making them more appealing within the context of socially responsible and often making these things more appealing to a wider audience by making them less than what they were. Of course, they're going to dole it down. They don't want, or they won't be able to sell what's essentially anti-establishment stuff within the establishment unless they can market it, if that makes sense. All right, to continue. There might be an audio mess up there. I messed up on an audio thing. I went on to say, I took a look at your little bio that looks like the thoughts of someone who fell down the so-called anti-SJW propagandist rabbit hole created by the so-called neo-skeptics. That shit is just junk food for your brain, and don't worry, I fell for that garbage myself. It took me a while to understand they were deliberately misrepresenting the points of their opposition. Over time, I started to notice many of those people kept calling themselves liberals or leftists and spent no time explaining what their supposed pro-liberal positions even were, and spent all their time just attacking leftist and liberal ideas. They also have a tendency to read news articles and comment on them while acting like they are reporting the news. In actuality, they're only reacting to an actual journalist who already reported the news. The goal of doing such seems clear, as to provide some kind of spin towards more conservative right-wing ideologies. They also use a lot of faux and tabloid articles that shouldn't be taken seriously anyways. I used to make anti-SJW content because it was easy and because I didn't understand I was unknowingly making content against my own values and principles. Seeing the erosion of civil rights under Trump also made me realize just how much of a pro-fascist propagandist mill anti-SJW content was. I stopped creating that content and started attacking anti-SJW content, attacking the right-wing, far-right, and fascist mouthpieces, as they literally are taking people's money to sit in front of a camera and a microphone and talk. You could train a monkey to do that. I mean, you could literally train a 12-year-old to do what a lot like what Tim Pool does. You could literally train a 12-year-old to do that. It takes no skills. Trust me, I make content on YouTube as you're commenting on it, and it's not hard. And coming up with original content, doing your own research, that's time-consuming and hard work. If you take 2 seconds to analyze your own claim on your bio, you'll see really quick how silly that is, because no one has ever made that claim. Maybe the closest you'll come to any feminist making the leftist claim that your bio is being the supposed antithesis for would be some extremely radical feminist that says all sex is rape, which most people don't feel that way. Most people, the vast majority, enjoy sex. Even other leftists have critiqued that position. I think that might be a position of Judith Butler. I can't remember what the feminist philosopher's name was that came up with it, but very, very, very extreme. ContraPoints did a video about her, actually, which I could be mistaken, but I think it comes from Judith Butler as being too far out there. Anti-SJW or anti-woke content is nothing more than propaganda to brainwash people towards more far-right regressive policies, like imprisonment of women for up to 30 years for having a miscarriage, which has happened. Look it up. That's a whole new low of oppression on women. We didn't even oppress women that hard during the witch trials. No one burned a woman as a witch for having a miscarriage, although if a miscarriage happened, the woman who had the miscarriage would often blame the miscarriage on witchcraft, and that might lead to a woman getting burned. It's really hard to get, it's really hard to get unbrainwashed, trust me. It starts, though, when you begin to start thinking for yourself and stop getting your opinions spoon-fed to you by other people. One way to do that is to start consuming media from people they tell you not to as well. Look at every side to what's being said. Once you have all the available information, you can make more informed decisions on how you yourself feel about those topics. You might be surprised what you find from one human being to another. As a human being, you matter, and I hope you know that. So that was her last chance to not be an anti-SJW. You know, here's her profile pic. Hold on, we're gonna. Okay, so I'll have a separate screenshot of that. Apparently, I can't just go to it anyway, not without disruption. So there you go. There's hopefully I'll show a picture of her bio. Okay, she says the bio is meant to troll you people who get offended by anti-SJW stuff. Yeah, do I sound offended? I'm so offended. I'm more in the middle, to be honest. The left are more annoying. This is like a new thing. Instead of anti-SJW, anti-woke, it's I'm a centrist, and that basically means you're right wing anymore.
Yeah, even saying the left are more annoying than the right wing. Why? I think throwing women in prison over a miscarriage for 30 years is pretty annoying, or making being a specific type of person that doesn't fit into your narrow box of is literally illegal. Not actually producing any victim, but making it like, being trans, making that illegal. I think that's pretty fucking annoying. I think it's pretty fucking annoying that they want to ban porn. I think it's pretty fucking annoying that they want mass censorship all over the internet and mass surveillance over the internet instead of holding people accountable that expose children to things that they shouldn't be exposed to. And I could go on, but I'm not gonna read all that. So she's talking about the thing. I'm not gonna read all that. Judging by your content, you probably don't know what goth is. Oh, really? Back when I'm done reading this, we don't find out. Goth has historically been apolitical. No, the Visigoths were not apolitical, and that's going all the way back to when it first started. And the Roman Empire, the ancient Roman Empire, 99% of the time. Again, incorrect, and I can prove that. And I'm going to in this video. It's not centered in politics. I can prove that's not the case too in a minute. Goth is an outgrowth of post-punk and is a separate subculture, by the way, we don't share the punk ideology. Goth isn't an ideology at all. Our music developed from post-punk. You sound like a conspiracy theorist with all your content. Okay, that's just a nothing burger. Goth is post-punk. It's sprung off of punk. It's not literally punk. It's sprung off of punk. It's post-punk because it happened after punk, as it was inspired by punk. But anyway, this whole you said okay, sure. Evidence. Okay, then we go on. You're not a goth, Jinks. You're just a punk rocker who, unironically, probably doesn't even listen to punk rock. Yeah, that's going to be funny when we come back and I can show you some CDs and albums. You're making an uneducated judgment then. So I'm telling her back is, I'm very frustrated. I wrote all that out, thinking like, okay, you want to have like an actual discourse. Like, I'm down. So here it is. And then says, I'm not reading it. I'm not reading it, but I'm gonna say all these things about you. I'm gonna make all these judgments about you, but I'm not gonna read it. Okay, you're gonna come to all these conclusions, and you're not even gonna read what I posted. How do you know that you're anywhere near accurate? You're not even gonna read it. So I tell her, you are making an uneducated judgment. Then you are making a claim of ignorance. What you just basically said is, I know what's in the book without reading it. If you're not going to take the time, don't bother to comment at all. And I followed up by saying, oh, really? Tell me. What do you know about me? I'll be waiting. I love to do this to people who stumble into my channel. Like somebody one time was all like, talked about like a thinning spot on the top of my head or something. Like, and they're like, oh, how's that balding spell going? It goes back to this bullshit with Cobra JFS or whatever the fuck. I don't know. I don't even care about that shit. And I'm like, well, I'm getting older. And they go, oh, I'm not much. You're not that much different in age than me. I'm probably older than you. Blah blah blah. I'm like, oh yeah. Why don't you tell me then? How old am I? What do you know about me? What do you fuckers think you know about me? What do you know? Come on. What I put on YouTube? That's what you think that's the sum total of who I am? Is that what you think of other YouTubers? Because if that's how you think of with other YouTubers, if that's what you think, this is the problem with social media. Okay, you don't know any YouTuber. You don't know them. Okay, the only way that you would know anything about me personally directly is if you've talked to me in real time. You know nothing about me. The things that this person does not know about me, even if she went through and watched every single video on my entire channel, the amount of stuff that she would not know about me could fill, like, multiple novels. So, I love doing that. They back themselves into their own little corner by doing that. Like, oh, I know so much about you. You're this, you're that, you're X, Y, and Z. Oh, really? Tell me all about who I am. I am sitting down. I have got a cup of coffee, like a cup of tea, something to snack on. I am ready for this. I want to know what the fuck you think you know about me. Go. This is gonna be good. All right, we're gonna get back now.
All right, so going through everything would take like 5 billion years. Like, I don't have time to go through every single album and thing that I have. It's quite an extensive collection, as you can see here, and that's only some of it. But I can like do this is that so here we have like Christian death, political, okay. Christian death, like it was originally created by Roz Williams, now it's being ran by Valor Ken. But Christian death, American Inquisition, protest against Bush Jr. administration. Okay, political, left-wing political. Creaming Jesus, left-wing political song. Dis-ease. The song is literally saying, like, and this song came out back in the 80s, which the lyrics are, I'm sick of all this racist, homophobic, misogynistic shit, and goes on to say, like, I'm ashamed to be white, I'm ashamed to be male. Okay, that came out in the 80s. I'm ashamed to be white, I'm ashamed to be male. Because of all the sexist, racist, homophobic shit. Political, very left-wing political. There's another song that if you have the link to this, would take you to a song called I Lost My Faith. And that's about how the church had abused its power to screw with kids, and why atheism, yay, or, fuck the church. Political, very left-wing political. Let's see, we got Burn the Castle by New Model Army, very left-wing political. These are like the original, like, goths, like people who started the genre, that these people thought of themselves as artists, they thought of themselves as punks. They did not go by the goth label until later. Like, that's a whole other thing too. So like New Model Army, Creaming Jesus, Christian Death, these are all like the originals, like the first like goth punk goth bands to sort of show up, along with like Bauhaus okay, so yeah, Burn Down the Castle, very left wing political. Then you have another New Model Army, Vengeance, which is all about like wanting vengeance and justice to be served by a guy that they found that ran Nazi death camps. Again, very political, very left-wing political. Here you have Sex King Children, an entire album called Bastard Art. Political, Politic is Dead is literally one of the names of the songs. He has, like, Andi Sex King has a song called Shit, Cheese, and Nazi Lovers. You have a song on there that's called propaganda. That's about propaganda. That's about political propaganda. So again, political. It's hard to say if he's left wing or right wing, but he sounds left wing because his most recent album, Oligarch, again, political. He has a song where he literally says capitalism does not make sense. The album before that, Viva Vigilante, there's a lot of political stuff in this one too. Left-wing political. Somewhat of the slide, because that was a very strange time, and okay, so, political, okay? A lot of them, majority of them, left-wing political. You do have far-right political people within the punk and goth punk scene. They exist. They absolutely do exist. One of the more modern ones is Death in June. I don't like them. They don't sound goth punk to me at all. They just sound kind of folk with the veneer of goth or whatever. I don't know. They kind of suck. Even if he wasn't like a fascist. He's a gay fascist. That's Death in June. He's a gay fascist. He fucking sucks. His music just sucks. Even if he wasn't a gay fascist, musically he sucks. I would not listen to him even if he was left wing, gay or straight, whatever. Even if he was left, and I still would not listen to it because it sucks. It's like Black Angel, like, and I'm getting to this because there is some point to what she is saying that I would agree with. But we're going to continue on though because of stuff we think we know about Jinx, or stuff we think we know about Goth. No, a lot of it was very, very political. A lot of it was very punk inspired. I have links in the description to interviews, videos that I have done about the Virgin Prunes and how they're pro-socialist, about how they're pro-LGBTQ rights, and etc., etc. The videos I've done in the past about the goth punk scene and how like goth punk was perceived as being like pro-fascist, but was actually very anti-fascist, which is part of like this socialist pro-Dadaist sort of art form, was showing how horrible and bad the far right were by highlighting and accentuating the darkness that is horrifying and degrading, dehumanizing, and bad, and that's why you shouldn't do it. So on to the punk stuff. Okay, so I do have you want fucking receipts. You want my receipts. My receipts. I have this album, by the Taxpayers, God Forgive These Bastards. That's a punk, sort of an acoustic punk band. I've been a fan of Patti Smith for a long time. I was raised by hippies, but believe it or not, my hippie dad is the one who exposed me to punk. He exposed me to Patti Smith. I have this. This is Los Angeles X. That's a punk band. I don't know if you consider like some punks are like misfits or kind of sell out. Some are like it's punk, but some don't. But I mean, if you consider misfit, I got misfits. Let's see. Believe it or not, this is not. It looks like this should be a goth. Like, see, this is the problem. This is where the line got crossed. I mean, this looks like it should be a goth band. Vampire Lesbos. Yeah, no, it's not a goth band. It's punk, and it's left wing political. This whole like goth and gothic are different. Okay, this is by Mick Mercer. This is by Mick Mercer. It's about all the original bands that did goth rock, from the Batcave, and even over here in the United States with 45 Grave, Christian Death, Jeton Damone, and Eva O, and the Superheroines. And he made a book. This was published in the 80s. This was published in 1984. But there's a book he published earlier than that. When was this published? Shit. Making me go look for it. Mick Mercer? Why? Okay, this was published like a year or two earlier. This is his first attempt at it. Gothic rock. It's basically the same thing. Here's your All About Eve. It's basically the same thing as the other one. It's just not as many bands. You have Mission UK, the Southern Death Cult, Sisters of Mercy, The Damned. I don't. Do you consider The Damned? Are they goth or are they punk? Because they're kind of both. And again, very left wing political. I mean, they have a song about democracy and how we're never going to get it because we don't actually live in it currently. Again, left wing political. Let's see. Was there anything? I mean, I think you get the point. You get the point. Look, I've left a lot. Like I will leave a ton of links. I've got interviews with Justin Sullivan of New Model Army. I've got interviews with Anti-Sex Gang, and they talk about punk, they talk about goth, they talk about how they came together. I wish I could include the link where Eva O just spells it out there. She did a live stream several years ago, and somebody in there was like, how did goth come to be? And she looked very irritated at this question, much like how I would be like, well, you had the punk scene, and you had punks that were into dark stuff, like, nihilism, serial killers, gothic romantic poetry, like Edgar Allan Poe, Lord Byron, and the punks that were into the darker stuff started hanging out together and making music together, and that goth happened. But the thing is like, a lot of these artists, they did not consider them goth in the beginning. Bauhaus, Anti-Sex Gang, Roz Williams from Christian Death, Rick Agnew never even from the original Christian Death never even switched over to goth. Like he just became like a prominent punk person, like just prominent in the punk community. Like a lot of them, including like Bauhaus, that they did not consider themselves goth. They were like, we're punk, we're artists, we're creative, we're punk. We do things differently. As Justin Sullivan says, the sort of knee-jerk reaction, the punk knee-jerk reaction is when somebody wants to put you in a box, you want to break it. All these goth artists that started the goth scene, they did not originally call themselves goth. They called themselves dark punk that was just dark. Okay, not like dark as in heavy or anything, just it's dark and it's punk, but it's dark and it's punk. In fact, like Bauhaus, Peter Murphy and oh fuck, what's the lead guitarist's name? Why is it not coming to me? It's not Daniel Ash. Is Daniel Ash? Yeah, I was right. It's Daniel Ash. Okay, no, I had it right. But Peter Murphy and Daniel Ash, as well as David J. They originally called their audience, because these people started showing up wearing all black and wearing these weird attire, this strange stuff, and pale face powder, which we used to do with baby powder or cornstarch. And black lipstick, eyeliner, that kind of thing, which you might have to buy at a costume thing during Halloween or something. They didn't used to manufacture this stuff, and I am getting to that. That is where her point is a little bit valid. I'm getting to that. So they called them wildebeests. They thought this audience that was showing up for their dark punk concerts, they just called them wildebeests. Eventually, actually, in the beginning, they called this punk movement that was dark. They actually in the beginning called it the Gothic Revival Movement, because you did have people like the girl from All About Eve. What is her name? It's not coming to me. Julian Reagan. she was into the Gothic romantics, like Percy Shelley, Mary Shelley, Lord Byron, and Poe, and a bunch of others, as well as being into Friedrich Nietzsche. So there was this aspect where some of the dark influence was coming from influence of actual Gothic romantic poetry from the Victorian era. So it was called the Gothic romantic revival at one point, and some people shortened that to calling them the Romantics. The Goth Romantics, the Gothic Romantics, Gothic, it's all the same. There was no difference. Eventually, it just got shortened to calling it Goth. And that's where it comes from. It started off as just a bunch of people that were making punk music who were just happened to be on the darker side of things, more into the depressing, more macabre type imagery and sounds and sort of soundscapes and stuff. They're just punks. And then, that started being called like the Gothic Romantic Revival, to the Romantics, to the Goth Romantics, to just Goths. Gothic. Goths. They're Gothic. Goths are Gothic. But a lot of them even fought on that title of like, I don't want the label. We're just artists. We're just punks. We're just trying to do things different and be strange and weird, and push the envelope of what's considered to be socially or societally acceptable and normal. Break the boundaries. Like, who's deciding what's normal here? I wish I was a dog, which is, again, that's Alien Sex Fiend. That whole first album of theirs, that's very political. It's very political. I live in Siberia through no fault of my own. Yeah, go listen to the lyrics of Ignore the Machine and tell me that's not left-wing political. Or Wish I Was a Dog, that's left-wing political. That's very punk. That is a very punk song. The Class of 69. Dead and Buried. Okay, this like anyway. So where was I gonna go after that? So I think I've shown that. So there's tons of these originals, the people who are seen as the fathers, the mothers of goth. Well, I'll tell you, it's even Susie Sue started off as punk. She started off as punk. She wanted to hang out with the Sex Pistols. That was like a big thing for her. So I've got all these documentaries, interviews, and stuff like that. You can go in there. There's even interviews and documentaries and stuff about the Virgin Prunes where they talk about this sort of stuff, and a lot of them are mostly very progressive, far left, politically leaning. Most punk and goths are. Most. There are aspects within the punk and goth community, and even the hippie community, that took it to the right. Very far right. So still counterculture. Into that sort of fascist, kind of fashy territory. And that's where you have us butting heads. It's why you have the Dead Kennedys with their Nazi punks fuck off. I don't have time to go through my entire album collection and show you every goth punk, goth. Blah, 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 blah. I even have some goth music, which you're talking about the whole what she's talking about, the whole post punk type of stuff, like bound by endogamy. Again, that's a very political, like it's supposed to be anti-fascist statement of like fuck fascism by talking about how dark and cruel and fucked up it is. To my understanding, I don't think she's a fascist. But yeah, you know, this sort of like dull electronica, like boom 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 boom, da, 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 like yeah, okay, like ex voto, okay, I'll call that post punk goth, you know, but that's the thing, like Cure and stuff like that. It's very like The Wake and ex voto and Black Angel today. This is all very pop goth, and that's the thing. Mainstream culture likes to, and it's a form of control because they don't want people to be anti-establishment. They want you to be a good boy or a good girl and follow the established rule. You have this narrow tunnel, like if there's a tunnel within the tunnel within the tunnel is the norm. But the tunnel on the exterior, that's your level of variability, of expressing your individuality within the norm. And goth is now a part of that. Because it's neoliberalism has reached in, as it tends to do. It did this with the hippies, it did this with beatniks, it did it with punk. It was bound and eventual that it was going to happen with goth. And so there is credibility to this in that if you're talking about pop goth or what goth is today, like She Passed Away and the other one, Black Angel, okay, yeah, that's just music aesthetic. It's not about a state of mind, a way of life. It doesn't go back to that punk lifestyle. You're right on those. She's right about those things. But that's a hijacking from mainstream neoliberal culture that's taking goth, the counterculture movement, and making it more commercial. You know, they don't want, it's kind of like the goth character from American Dad and, you know, stuff like that. It's like, it's campy, it's quirky, it's silly, it's fun, you know, instead of something like Train Spotting. They want it to be more in context of, I just dress in all black and, you know, like these dark things, but, you know, I'm just a normal person. Instead of somebody that's like, nah, I want to go and break the camera that's on that stop sign that's, you know, taking pictures of people's license plate and acting as basically surveillance state. And participate in some civil disobedience. They don't want people doing that. They don't. That's counterculture. They want you to be, you know, be an independent thinker like everyone else. They don't want you to be an actual independent thinker and go, why is this illegal exactly? I don't think it should be illegal, so I'm going to do it anyway. And you can go fuck yourself. So yeah, goth is pop now. It's pop. That doesn't mean the counterculture aspect that it was brought out of it. You know, I mean, yes, neoliberals still, but we're still here. Community FK is still here. They're still weird. They're still like, push the norms. Fuck the system. Andy Sex Gang is still like, fuck the record industry. Justin Sullivan from New Model Army, same thing. Not everyone sells out, you know. For a lot of us, it's a way of life. It's a state of mind. It's a lifestyle. It's not just about having black clothes and stuff like that. And it's not all necessarily about the music that you listen to either. I just happen to like dark things. Like, I am who I am. I don't twist and contort myself to fit into this definition of goth. I found goth what it is because I was bound to, because of the things that I find to myself to be interested in. I mean, I have books about post-mortem daguerreotypes from the 1800s that literally show pictures of dead bodies in it. I mean, this is a fascination of mine. Like, I was bound to find a music genre that sort of encapsulates that. And then it has a punk attitude on the fuck authority. Oh, I love this. I was bound to find that. That was inevitable. It didn't matter what it was called. That was inevitable. But so for this person, yeah, it's fashion. It's about makeup. It's about being cute. It's about like, oh, look at my cute little bobble skull head. Isn't that adorable? Or my little coffin purse. For you, it's that. It's about consumerism. It's about how much music you can buy. It's not about supporting independent artists living out of a studio apartment and making art that challenges and questions the system and authority and stuff. That's not what it is. Although there is a new band that I deeply respect, and they've been labeled goth, but they've done exactly what the originals did. They're like, no, we don't like that label. We're not goth. We're not punk. We're just artists. We're just creative. We want to be different. We want to be outside the box. And man, they kick ass. The name is Belgrado. Love them. Love them. They have that original sound, that original vibe, that original feel. That is what I was originally drawn to goth punk for. They have that. Belgrado's great. I will leave a link to Belgrado in the description, along with many other links that I've done on goth being counterculture, the difference between goth counterculture and goth subculture, because now there are two different ones. And I think this person is just part of goth subculture, part of the neo-liberalist hijacking of goth counterculture, which is supposed to live outside the bounds of the system. Do as you want. Live your life. Fuck the system. Ignore the machine. Don't pay attention to it. Fuck them. But for her and others like her, it's like Blink-182 with punk. It's commercial. It's like Green Day. You know, it's so far removed from listening to, you know, you open up a punk album and put it in, just the instruments make no sense and somebody just goes into the microphone and people are like, why is this music? And it's like, because it's a fuck you to the establishment. I know you don't get it. It's fine. You know, we stand alone, we stand like whores. It's a quote by Roz Williams. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, even back in the day, I talked to a punk. He has his own Punks for Progress. I talked to his name was Aaron, and you know, I said something to the effect of him like, oh, I'm into goth, you know, and it's we're sisters, you and I. You know, that's again that has to do with left-wing politics, saying we're sisters is it's about feminist female empowerment, blah 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 blah. But it's like I said to him, you know, goth is the sister to punk, and he said, Jinx, goth is punk, and he's not wrong. He's not. If you listen to a lot of the earliest goth stuff that was coming out, the things that people started labeling goth, it just sounds like punk. Especially like the superheroines, it just sounds like punk. It just sounds like punk. Community FK just sounds like punk. But I think I've demonstrated I know what goth is, and I understand where this girl's coming from. You know, I mean, but you have to understand, no, goth has not always been socially acceptable. When it first arrived, it was heavily attacked. It was not something you did to be popular. Kind of like being a punk. You were the outsider usually. And people usually thought you were dangerous because that's what the media made you out to be. Like, I mean, after the Columbine incident happened, a lot of goth, punk, and even industrial rivethead type, you know, like KMFDM got dragged into it, even though they're not goth at all. They're industrial. A lot of them tried to separate themselves, even though, like, there's a lot of anger and frustration about the system, maybe wishing people were dead or something like that, but no one is advocating for killing anybody. Except for the fascist ones. The fascists actually do that. That's part of fascism. Far-right ideologies is that certain people are not people. They're dehumanized and you need to get rid of them. But in the left circles, there's anger, there's frustration. But nobody's advocating to kill anyone. That's ridiculous. A lot of talk about death, but it's to highlight, you know, our cruel, dark, fucked up world. Like I love the song Kings by Mephisto Walls. The things that claw and the things that gore are unreliable things. And so is a man with a sword in his hand and snakes and rivers and kings. It's a good song. Or Black Tape for a Blue Girl, Knock 3 Times. The world could talk, insane men ruled. Our stomachs kept on grumbling, but we had fun. We danced a lot. If you don't count on the stumbling, it's basically like you know, fuck the hierarchy, fuck the rulers. Do whatever you fucking want. Live your fucking life. Ignore the rules. Ignore the system. Just be yourself. Be like that of a dog. Be like Hermeticles. Yeah. But specifically, if she's even gonna watch this video, she does respond. Like I'm thinking, like, what's the point of responding? She won't even read the shit. But you know, like I think for you, it is subculture, or yeah, it's it's pop. It's a fashion thing. It's aesthetic. It is not a state of mind for you. It is not a way of life. But believe it or not, there are those of us where it still very much is an anti-establishment, fuck the system movement that we just can't get out of us. Just, that's who we are. I've always struggled with authority, and I've always had a deep thing against injustices towards people. I don't know that that's ever going to change, and I've always been interested in dark shit, dark, weird, creepy shit. So, I mean, perfect thing for me. Like I said, I was bound to find the shit. I was bound to. But, you know, after the Columbine incident too, like, going in, like, the media was attacking Goths way before the Columbine incident. Like, the Columbine incident, the people who did the Columbine incident weren't even Goth. But, oh yeah, they took advantage of that incident to attack the Goth community. They even started, like, putting mandates in schools where, like, we couldn't even wear the shit that has become just a consumer product for you, just a fashion line. We had to fight for you to have that because we were anti-establishment and fuck the system, and we weren't going to be told what to do. After the Columbine incident, they wanted us to no longer have dog collars, no longer have the necklaces, no longer have the fishnet shirts, no longer the all black, no longer the fun, the mohawks and everything. It was almost like coming forward, like they weren't coming out and saying we have school uniforms now, but they were almost saying, like, if you're not wearing Abercrombie and Fitch, Hollister, or American Eagle, then a FUBU and stuff was okay. Tommy Hilfiger was okay, but if you weren't wearing those things, you were bad. And like, I had even been threatened to be expelled once because I was accused of having a death list. I did not have it. I did have a death list, but it wasn't like what they thought. It was just a little journal that I kept of, like, famous people and the days that they died. But no, I mean, I didn't have a death list. No. It was a big issue. We fought back. We protested. And now, because it's a fashion thing for you, you can go and do it as a fashion thing, as a neoliberal thing that spits in the very face of what we stood for. But, hey, you're able to do that because of people like me. So you're welcome for that. This has gone on long enough. I don't know that I have anything more to prove. And like I said, she doesn't seem like this girl wants to do her homework anyway. But if you do decide to do homework, there are tons of links in the description. Tons of them. And I think you should go look at them and learn more about Goth counterculture. Counter, not the subculture. The counterculture. Thank you. Like, share, subscribe, and comment and all that stuff. And, yeah, out.